What's going on? Welcome to another edition of the Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight. Today I have with me my longtime brother and teammate, former Washington football team tackle, former Virginia Tech standout left tackle. He probably plays on the right side too, but he was a ball at the left. Also assistant principal at Osborne High School, and father of two beautiful daughters. Shout out to his daughters and his wife, Liz. Today we have my roommate, one of my greatest friends, close friends, one of my best friends, Derek Smith. How you doing, D?
Hey man, it's great to see you, Big Vic. Love you, man. Just appreciate you for letting me be here and telling my story, and grateful to be a part of the movement.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and this is a great movement because I get great people like you to jump on and share your story. So I want this to be for people that don't know you as well as I do, and is to be as open and honest about your legacy, because I think people in the now know you as Derek Smith, this 6'6", 6'7" principal, loving father, spiritual, insightful person, guidance. But you have been through your fair share of struggles, and we're going to talk about that before we just talk about the Big East Conference and Washington NFL Pro and your mentoring and leadership. People didn't know you've overcome a lot, and that's what's so great about these legacy spotlights is that I get, Shane Graham's been on here and he talked about the love for his father, and it happens. We need people to know about what you've been through. So what I know and many people don't know is you're from West Virginia, but you're a 757 guy.
Yeah,
born
absolutely,
in born in P-Town, where Sharon is from. So
absolutely.
let's start off with your legacy spotlight, your VA beach days,
Yeah,
and how
man.
you got to
So,
West Virginia.
so my whole family's from like the Allegheny Mountains, like out in the west. Little town called Kitzmiller, Maryland. It's just an old mapped out like coal mining town. It probably looks the same last 100 years. My mom's a free spirit, man. She's a hippie folk. She's always given me great love, and her side of the family, like her mom and the side, they've always been real loving and stuff. And we actually found out recently, like through her line, that we have a patriot ancestor that served as a bodyguard for George Washington. So
Mm.
yeah, man. So it's kind of uplifting to hear kind of that serving our country and like those kind of times and helping certain things, and it's just really cool, man. So that's great. My dad, he listed in the Navy, and we moved around a lot. I have an older brother, Sean, who's 6 years older than me. We got a chance to go to like Iceland and some other countries, but I was a little baby. But like my first memories of school or anything was really at Virginia Beach, Lynn Haven neighborhood. Um, you know, uh, it was great, man. Had like diverse friends, and we just ran around, hung around with each other, just because we were all from the same neighborhood, and just, man, not a care in the world. I love it, man. I love the 757. The beach is awesome, man.
And
It
see,
just,
you were on the beach. You were over there, with
yeah,
Glory Days and Lynn Haven and Sunshine. And we were, I was on the other side of the water. We were over there,
yeah,
it was all hands on deck. It was boys in the hood.
yeah, man.
I want
Hey,
people that's never visited 757 know there's two sides.
hold on. Let me tell you something. There's still challenges, Vic,
Well, no question, no question.
because if you weren't with your right people, like you had to keep your head on a swivel. I'm
And
just being real.
no,
Like,
no, you know what? I'm glad you said that because I was actually talking to some people the other day. Virginia Beach is known for the tourist spot, the strip.
yeah,
But people don't realize, man, like you and I know, and people that's there, Virginia Beach is not, it's not sweet. It's not, you go the wrong way. Aaron Rouse, I got Aaron Rouse's one. He was on Vicktory Life Legacy
yeah,
Spotlight,
man.
and he talked about, growing up in the gangs and the crime. I'm like, wow, so,
You
but
grow fast.
your life was good because you had a loving mother and your brother looked out, right?
Yeah, they looked out for me. My dad wasn't around much because, like I said, he was enlisted, so he was always out like on the base or whatever. And there's a ton of bars out there, so he spent a lot of time out there. He suffered from alcoholism, man. So he had a really violent temper, and he'd also be very verbally abusive to my mom and my brother and I. And so that's tough, man, because as a kid you try to figure out like dynamics of like who you are and what you are, and what are relate what's to love one another as a father to son or even adult to a youth. So makes you question those things and you try to figure it out, and it's difficult as a youth, man. So it produces these behaviors that I think a lot of people saw when I was my early 20s and 18 and so forth, you know, that kind of manifested. But he wasn't really around that much at the beach. You know, I didn't see him. My uncle was down there. That's actually his dad, my dad's brother, who I love to death, man. He actually took care of me. Like, he'll come up later on in the story. Him and my Aunt Jerry, Uncle Neil and Aunt Jerry, they'll come up later in the story, man. They're great people on my dad's side that really took care of me at a time when I needed to, around that 95 year, you know, that we talked about.
Yeah.
And so you know, at the beach, my dad eventually, he retired from the Navy, and all my family's out west, like in the Allegheny Mountains. So my great grandmother had a plot of land in Jefferson County, and the little town's called Carneysville, West Virginia. If you remember from the program guide and all that stuff, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, you used to always give me a hard time. Like, Carneysville, like, yeah, it's out in the middle of nowhere. Trust me, I know. Like, it's an acre, right? Like, the closest store was like a mile away. You know, it was far, man. So the hard thing is, you know, you're not around the same guys and kind of the same people that you were, you know, when you move out there. And people are great, man. I love West Virginia. The people are awesome. It's just different. It's just different than 757 in terms of just, you know, just how people go about life and stuff. So, and in terms of
just erasing misconceptions and stereotypes, because
yeah,
you know, being a college athlete, especially at D1 level, even the lower levels, you travel. But people have grown up thinking, you know, and Dr. Newman and I, he's been on this show, we talk about labels. West Virginia has always been a joke, a label. But for you, even though it was different from Bob Beach, it wasn't, you weren't growing up seeing any kind of hatred or racism or
no, it wasn't overt. You know, I will tell you there was tensions, you know, a lot of times between people. I mean, that was Rodney King era. There was a lot of things that were going on that, you know, man, people said stupid things and situations, man, and you know, good people just make wrong choices. That's why I said second choices are matter. That matters for a lot of people, because you can learn from mistakes, man. You just, you know, and so we myself and personally, just I think just coming from Virginia Beach, like I got along with everybody, so I hung out with whoever was like me and just wanted to hang out and you know, I had these behaviors in classes, so I wasn't necessarily the teacher's favorite because I was huge too, so they were kind of intimidating from me. And you know, I think even like with my dad, like being, you know, we were stuck in a house together a lot more often. And so, you know, anytime you keep poking the bear, I mean, eventually it bites back and you know, things happen and you form behaviors and personalities, and you get to a point in the decision where you just got to survive, man. You know, you tried to take my life one time and you know, it is what it is, man. And you just move forward, and it's part of the journey of trying to understand why these things happen in people's lives and understand their challenges, because he was an alcoholic. And you realize myself, like I'm not a big fan of it, even though I live in Loudoun County. I love it. It's a wine country. Liz loves it, right? You know what I mean? So I'm always the designated driver, whatever, you know, like it's all good. You know, so you try to overcome, and like I said, we'll talk about that later on, and kind of how to overcome those feelings. And you can see they're still sharp, man. Like I said, I think the power of an adult to a youth is beyond anything in this world, especially after all the stuff we dealt with, the disease, the COVID and everything, like how can we not be there for each and every one of our children to make sure we lift them up, right? Like, make sure they have that care to know that it's okay. You know, you can figure this out. You can, and in fact, you're the only one that can figure it out. But you have to be able to have those people around you to help support you and so forth. And that's where those adults come into life, you know? So,
let me ask you this. Hold on. Let me ask you this. I don't need you to take me back to that night or that day with your dad. But I, you know, if you don't know, for people that are watching for the first time, I am a licensed therapist. I've been dealing with mental health for over 20 years. I deal with clients' trauma, depression, anxiety. And I understand to separate when someone acts out, that's not really them. Sometimes it might be a disorder. For you, when you reflect on, I don't need to go back to that time. It's not that kind of show, but your dad was struggling with alcoholism. Do you look at that incident, even when you reflect like, wow, that was how powerful that disease was? That really wasn't him. Absolutely. Almost like he was possessed.
Absolutely. Like absolutely. There's acceptance and forgiveness, but I'm still human and I still have emotion. And so I think that's the one thing we all need to understand is we are human, that we have this range of emotions that we're really in control of, that we have to understand that we need to be in control of to see things in good light and good path. Because when you're angry, right, and you're thinking angry, right, you act angry, right? If you're thinking positive, you're thinking well, then you act well, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot into understanding what we've been given by God in terms of just the ability to have a range of just control in our lives. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
control ourselves, and so he made his choices in his life. And I look back, and what I realized in school is I apologize to any teacher, any person that I may have been rude to, or just not appropriate, because I didn't know any better, and it's no
Mm-hmm.
excuse. It's an understanding of where somebody's at in the situation. And so you learn from that, and then you find certain people in your life that that will find ways to connect with you. And one of those guys was at Shepherdstown Junior High School in uh, Shepherdstown, West Virginia. And I was getting a little bit of trouble in 8th grade. I wasn't passing any classes, nothing, man. And we in gym class, like, that was my favorite class. I loved to hoop, right? Imagine that, right? Like, a lot of the guys that have that necessarily are making great choices and doing great things. They love to go, just play sports and just hang out.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was that guy, right? I loved it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my friends would always be like, man, you big, like, come play football. And I was like, oh, man, I don't play football. Like, that's too much work, man. I like shoot basketball, man. Like, I don't, nah. And the football coach came out, Richard Mills, and he goes, man, I think you'd be all right at football. I think you'd be pretty good. And I was like, Coach, I'm not passing the class. He goes, just try to do your best, try to work as hard as you can. I was like, Coach, I'm not passing any classes. And sure enough, over the summer, man, I got a letter. You get the form letters to come in and try out. Like, the list of clothes and everything that you got to wear, and like jock straps. Like, jock strap, like, what are you jock strap? What am I using that for, right? So, like, I had no idea what I was doing. So after the first day, I was like, I'm not doing this. There's no way I want to do this. And my brother picked me up, and he was like, listen, he was in college at the time. He's like, listen, I regret not playing in high school, and you started something. I want you to finish it. And I thought about it, and I knew he cared about me. I knew he loved me, and he's awesome, man. And his wife Jenny and Ambrose, and he's gonna be a hell of a basketball player, man. Watch out for the kid Ambrose Smith. He's gonna be awesome.
Okay.
And he said in the car, and he said, just finish what you started. And I said, all right, and I stuck with it. And that team I think it was 1990. It went undefeated and unscored on. Nobody touched us. Like, we were monsters, man. It was just all of us that, just a lot of good guys that really just got after it. It was good energy. And that was, I think, my first point, when I was like, one, I thought football was easy. I was like, oh, everybody wins 8-0 and undefeated. Like, you block everybody out, right? But it was my first understanding of, like, the power of connectivity of people, and like how that connection works together to, like, drive goals and a purpose and all kinds of team oriented things that make things happen, right? So you recognize and you reflect on that time and experiences, like being very grateful for being a part of that team.
Yep.
Outstanding coach. He ended up going to Jefferson County afterwards, but I had another coach, Jay Kirby, that was very awesome, very supportive as well. And like recruiting, man, like, recruiting was a mess, at least for me, because I had zero guidance. Like, I had nothing. You think back then, even now, like, you still got to figure out, like, who's telling the truth, who's doing what, and why are they doing it.
Yep.
Back then you had no, I was like, I don't even know if I want to go to college. Like, I don't even know how that works. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was nervous. I didn't know what the process was. So I got all these letters.
So
And
hold on. Don't
yeah.
just skim through that. You went from not even wanting to play football. You were hooping in West Virginia. For those that don't know, you may not heard me. If you look Derek up, he is everything of 6'6", 6'7", right? So you're hooping, playing in West Virginia. You become a standout football player. Don't gloss over that. But also, West Virginia, to be fair, is not Ohio. It's not the Tallwood area. It's not Miami. It's not Dade County. It's not Pennsylvania or California. So even then in the 90s and even now, it's not like you're going to see a ton of kids.
Right.
They go to Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania and other places.
Yeah.
But yet you were heavily recruited, right?
Yeah, it was so we had tough kids, man, and that's what I loved. I love being around tough kids, I guess, because I was tough, right? So, like, you had to be tough if you get you go through the things you do as a kid, and so just a bunch of tough farm kids and just kids that got after it, man. So I enjoyed it, and we ended up going to playoffs for 2 years, and I guess they hadn't gone to the playoffs for a while. I guess until James Jett. He was an alumni from.
Yeah, I know James Jett. That's old school.
Yeah, man. And he went to West Virginia. Was a standout at West Virginia. He was a standout with the Raiders. He won a gold medal at the Barcelona Olympics. And look, we all looked up to him, but at the same time, I was like, man, I just want something different. Like, I just, I appreciate him, I respect him, but I want to make my own path. Like, I want to be my own path. I want that. So, had opportunities at the academies. I think because of the military background, all 3 of the academies, but I had no understanding. I was like, I don't think I can deal with that discipline. I was just like, you watch those movies, like them crazy war movies, and you're like, I don't know if I can deal with that, right?
Yeah.
So it was more like East Coast. UVA didn't look at me. They knew better, I guess, right? Like they didn't even look at me. So it was like NC State, Penn State. Penn State was heavy on me, and I got a vibe. I'm being for real. I just got a vibe, and I was like, I'm not coming here. I don't know what it was, man. It was just something. Oxnard, Ken and I were there at that same visit.
Ken Oxendine?
Yeah. Ken
Shout out to our guy, Ken Oxendine. Y'all want to visit, but didn't know each other yet, right?
No. We just connected. Like, it was one of those things, you know how you meet people on the visits, and you just start talking, and you're just like, wow, I just connect with this guy. And you're like, where are you going? He's like, I'm heading to Virginia Tech. And I was like, Virginia Tech, okay. Like, and just trying to like, all right, where's this place? And I heard of it because my mom, when she was down at the beach, worked for the city. So she had connections with Virginia Tech. So she was always, loved the university, loved everything about it. And when I really got my first chance to look at it, it was the 93 season, when they went to the Independence Bowl. And you watch, for me, it ended up being coming down to West Virginia and then watching Tech. And West Virginia at the time, I think, was playing in, what were those games? It wasn't BCS. What were they were
called Alliance Bowls.
Yeah, it was like one of the Sugar or something. Like, they were playing Gators, and they got their butts whipped by the Gators. And I was like, man, I'm gonna go.
Oh, by Florida. Yeah, you taking it way back. Yeah.
I was like, yeah. Well, I mean, that's my reference. I'm being for real. Like, I look at it and I was like, that's not what I wanted to do. And you see Tech, and you were like, man, in Indiana. And you see kind of the tenacity that the defense, like Jeff Holland, like Big Jeff. And we talk about 74, like the reputation of 74. Jeff was like the guy that set it off, man. Like, for me, in a lot of ways, because he was, the poster child for blocking the kick and stuff. And so that was, seeing that kind of energy, I was like, I like this. And then when we got there, like on the visit, like, I don't know, it was old school, man. Tech had what did they have in the Bowman room? What was that in the God, they had like the dot matrix board, all the different crazy stuff, right? But it was the connection that Beams had with us. It was the connection that Steinspring had with us. I mean, every Hokie that's gotten on here to talk about those guys, they mean so much. Foster, Wiles wasn't there at that time, but later on he still had that same identity, But it was just a great feeling, man. And I think, when we got there, I had no idea the level of expectation that was expected upon us with Coach Gentry, with Coach Grimes, with everybody, because I'm big man on campus in West Virginia. I'm living a life like just smashing people and, going all state and whatever, it's like you think you're doing well. And then all of a sudden you see Cornell Brown, you're like, wow. Hey,
well, man. Do you remember, let's talk about, so we're now in the Tech days. So at that time, and even if you look back, I mean, because Virginia Tech, I mean, it's had its fair share of standout recruits, but for that time, the 93 class was very loaded, with Banks, Antonio Banks, and Cornell Brown, who, to me, he's right there with Michael Vick, Kevin Jones, and certain players that really were game changers as far as elite players. But we come in, you're talking about a very heralded class. Yourself, Marcus Parker, heavily recruited Toni Morrison, Ken Oxendine, Todd Washington, Gennaro DiNapoli, myself, and a lot of guys that came in that had a lot of hype and ended up being very productive. But at the same time, I remember, and I'm gonna share this story. I'm gonna take over your spotlight. I remember I was at guard, like it was always, and you were at tackle. And but back then, it might be the same way now. The freshmen reported early. And we did a mini camp, and me and you were like, oh, we're killing it. Because we're going against the other guys who are walk-ons, who are in their second year, who are going to be backups. or guys trying out. So,
Oh.
they set you up. And we're like, oh, we're killing it. We're in the dorm. We're like, man, I'm going to play.
Oh my
And then
God,
all of a
man.
sudden,
reality hits.
Reality sits when I remember walking by. I shared this story. I remember walking by and I looked because the weight room was that dungeon before the new one. And I looked in there and I saw Waverly Jackson, Hank Coleman, Cornell Brown, Jim Barron, Chris Malone,
Oh my God,
J.C.
man.
Price lifting, and they're screaming and they're all hitting each other. And then the funny part about this story is we're going against Coach Grimes throws us to the Wolves. Me and you are in there with the ones.
Yeah, man.
Going against Cornell Brown. And you were going against Cornell. Who was I going against? Was it Waverly?
Oh my God.
Or
JC.
JC Price. I was going against JC and you were going against Cornell. And you and I are getting reamed out by Coach Bustle and Grimes. They're just cussing this.
Hey, it wasn't Bustle, man. That was
it was Gary Tranquil.
It was Gary
Excuse
Tranquil.
me, it was Gary Tranquil.
Which is an experience in itself, man. Right?
Yes. So I remember you and I looked at each other, and I'm not ashamed to tell people, you and I, tears in our eyes, and you were like, man, I want to go home. We're gonna quit. And I said to you, I said, bro, man, I just want to take my red shirt and go to the dorm.
Oh my God.
I am not ready. And Cornell is on the other side. JC and him are chirping. Cornell's like, how dare you put these rookies in front of me?
All right,
remember that?
Hey, Vic. Oh my God. Oh my God, dude. Hey. So monster, right? Cornell Brown, and let me tell you something. He deserves a reputation for monster at practice because that man went 1,000,000 miles an hour all the time. Like he made you better. Like so we're setting up. I think it was pass protection, and I'm still figuring out what the heck pass protection even is, man. Like old school football, like 90 football, like right, your shoulder shiver and stuff, right? Like they're having us kick set back and trying to knock our hands, and I'll never forget, man, he whipped my tail so fast. Like I had not like the skate. I think he hit me with the skate. Hit it so fast. And I flipped around and he struck Druckenmiller straight in the back. Druck flew to the ground. I'm sitting there like, what just happened? Druck gets up. He looks at me, he's like, you're pathetic. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry, man. Like I didn't mean to. And Tranquil was like, don't you know anything at all? I was like, no, sir. We got back in the huddle, remember? And I was just like, oh my God, what is this, man? What is this?
Oh my
And they're
goodness.
like, to make it better, like, all right, the ball's coming right behind you, Smith, and you, Vic. It's right there. Cornell Brown, it's coming right here again. And I'm like, oh my God.
So tough, man. Listen.
Hey, hold on. We get up to the line of scrimmage. Man. I'm shaking, I'm shivering, everything. I'm like, what the hell is a snap count, man? What is it, right? Let's go. Oh my God. All my energy, everything's in there. I come off, I stroke him. And Cornell, I love him. You know, he'll tell the story too. I stroked him, got him off the ball, man, drove him off the ball.
Oh, yes, you did.
The running back went right by us. Cornell slapped me on the head. He said, good-ish, son. And I was immediately had this like, oh, whew, okay.
Yep. I remember that because, for you young people that may see this, everything is film review. You watch nothing but videos of yourself practices. And I remember Grimes highlighted that about how you came back. Yeah. And that's pretty much the story of your life, right? Yeah, man. But I do want to touch on this, Derek, because this is your legacy spotlight. One thing I didn't mention, I'll mention now. I also remember meeting you in '94 because I didn't meet you on visits. I met you when I got up there, right? Yeah. And I remember coming in there and you were moving in because Todd Verlites, am I right? He was your roommate?
No, Jason Barish.
Jason Barish.
Yeah.
I apologize, Barish.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting you and you were still, we hit it off immediately, but I remember we were polar opposites. But you were in a place where you were just like, I'm here to play ball. I don't care. I'm not trying to be your friend. Yeah. Like you weren't rude. You weren't mean. You were just like, hey man, we're all going over here. You're like, I don't care. You talk about your mind state, like just how you were in '94.
Again, like I think you look at anybody that's been through trauma, then you look at a situation and you're like, behaviors are going to manifest itself and situations are going to manifest itself. And it's not necessarily socially acceptable, and you try to figure out, like I said, identity and things, but you still, like for me, there was still a connection. Like I still loved you guys. Like we still loved each other because like for me, football was a release. Like you could be as hard and as violent as you needed to, and there's no repercussions for things, and you allowed you this release that had to be done. And you know, man, we punish people. Like anybody we played against, any of the film, like I said, you watch any of the film except for that 97 Carolina. Good God, man. That's just kind of right? That besides that, like I said, man, it was just that kind of that mind frame, you know. And I lost my train of thought, man.
No, you were just talking about in '94 how you were in a place where you were overcoming your challenges. Yeah. And we didn't know what was going on. At the time, I came to Virginia Tech, me and Marcus Parker was 17. I turned 18 while in college. But even if you were 18, 19, 17, we're still kids, right? Yeah. We're young men, but we're kids. So I don't know what you're going through. All I know is in our free time, which was rare, we wanted to hang out, play video games, go to parties. You were kind of in your own world, which we'll talk about in a second in '95 when it really hit bad. But you didn't come to Tech like a lot of college kids, not just you, but you came there just to play ball and do your thing. But you weren't really coming with an open mind. You were kind of standoffish. You know, you talk, but you were dealing with some things, right? You were dealing with some things.
I think in a lot of ways, listen, like I was a kid that didn't have any direction. And so as somebody that excelled well in football, you were told early on that, hey, man, you're just going to play in the NFL, right? So when you listen to people you respect, like your coaches and stuff, and tell you, like, you're pretty good, you've got a chance, you'll probably play in the NFL, like that's unfortunately the frame of thinking, because there's not any other influences telling me other choices and other thoughts and other ideas to make a well-informed decision for myself, right? So
but you struggled though, right?
Yeah, man. Like, and so you find those ways, and you still find a way to fight through and as best as you can. And I think it comes to a tipping point where you just break down. And I think that's what happened. My grandmother just passed away, my mom's side. I just talked about her earlier. You know, she meant so much to me, man. Like, she always gave me love. I think that unconditional love is most important. She passed away. My parents finally divorced. They finally got separated. My mom moved back to the beach. And then I had that car accident. If you remember that as well, that summer, had a Bronco 2 that I just saved up money to be able to get. And it slid it off the side of the road. I mean, there's a reason that they stopped making those things, right? It slid off the road. Yeah, and rolled down the hill and took that chunk out of my leg.
Yep, I remember all of that.
So a culmination of all that. And it was too much, man. It was too much. And honestly, I was making decisions that I wasn't happy about. I wasn't smart. You know, you mentioned some teammates that we had. I think we were all kind of struggling and trying to figure out identity and purpose. And each one of us were different, man. Like, you think some of them were very affluent. They had resources, they had support. And you had some that didn't, that maybe had some support. And, you know, so we're all dealing with our own challenges, trying to figure out things. And you thank God that, you know, you made it, and you look back and you reflect and you say, you know, at those lowest points in your life, you can only get better. And I think for me, you know, it was a point when I got to the beach, and it was the '95 Sugar Bowl game that was on TV at my Aunt Jerry and Uncle Neil's house.
New Year's Eve.
Yep. And how happy I was to see you guys, like, on the field and just kicking Texas's tail, like, up and down the field, and just seeing the joy and the happiness. And then after the game, just kind of being a little bit sad, you know, and just like, man, like, I belong. Like, I can do that, right? Like, I belong. I'm able to do that. So a little bit of time goes by, and Ken Oxendine actually calls me at my aunt and uncle house. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I don't know, man. I have no idea what I'm doing." He's like, "Why don't you come back and play?" I was like, "Are they going to take me? Like, you sure they want me to come back and play?" He goes, "Man, just call him, tell him to come back and play." I was like, all right. So my mom helped me, right? Like, that takes a lot of courage. And I'm a kid that still doesn't know what true courage or understanding how to overcome the adversity to have the courage. You know, you just doubt yourself. So So she helped me talk to Stein Spring, and Stein Spring being who he is of a person, and just love me, welcome me back. Coach Beamer loved me, welcome me back. All you guys love me and welcome me back. Just made me feel good, man. And that started the run, like 96. It was such a great year, man.
Oh, it was a great year. You balled. Well, first of all, hold on before D, but I'm gonna share something. I don't even know if you remember, but I remember all that you said. I remember the car accident that nearly killed you. And I remember talking to you in the locker room before they built the new one. And I remember talking to you. I said, hey, man, just talking, you ready for the season? And he's like, you know what? I'm not staying here. Like, you got nasty with me. You were angry. You were like, I'm not going to repeat everything. I'm paraphrasing for our viewers, but you were just like, and then you kind of snapped, but you had to release it. You said, my parents are divorcing. I lost my grandma. You just were I lost my grandmother. I almost died. I don't care about this anymore. And, and this is why I tell everyone, mental health is real. Talk about your problems, release it. And I remember sitting there thinking, wow, man, like, what's this deal? Like, we're in the time of our lives and we're playing at the highest level, but you were going through something. And then, I never thought I was going to see you again, because this is before social media and cell phones. This is back in the day. Your girl was back home. You had to write her a letter, like, a Leah 4-page letter. Like you had, but Ox is right. And thank God for Ox. And I remember when you came back, you just told me these wild stories, how you were in a dark place mentally, but you came back.
Absolutely.
And God bless Frank Beamer, Stein Spring, Grimes, and everybody. Bustle was then, I mean, because I tell people, man, if you're going to coach or be a principal or a father or a leader in this community, you got to know these young men and women are going to make mistakes, bro. And you didn't even make a mistake. You just needed help. And I'm glad you came back. You came back balling. 96 was a great year. We went to the Orange Bowl year.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be real. I still had issues. You still have things with you. You just learn to utilize as much of that energy into what's being asked of you. And I love being challenged. I a lot of times it didn't sit on my face. I mean, we weren't happy doing the bar hangs for 2 minutes and all that other stuff, man. Like you can't even do any of that stuff now, can you? Like
what? No. What?
Right?
I can barely walk.
So, like they were hard to us. They made us hard. Like practices were harder than games. Like people need to understand that. We knew we were going to win every single time because we were so physical to each other in practice all the time. Like we never let up on each other. Not like, hey, take a break for a second. No, it was just go, and look at all the flags up they're in lane. Look at all the different things. I mean, that's from that era. It was just the way we operated, man. It was like, we take no prisoners on anything. It was, you're gonna feel it the next day. I promise you that, right? Like it was that kind of mentality. So, man.
Andy Bitter about 4 years ago came out with a list, and I'm not a big fan of these lists or votings because, I saw the list for old linemen. They did like all the positions, first, second, and third team of the Beamer era, and the defensive back one. You can imagine how hard that was. But what people don't realize is, and I've had some great players from our teams on this show. Todd Washington's been on here, Haygood and TJ. But Haygood and TJ agree, and I don't know if you would agree, but during those times, I think a big part of what made Virginia Tech successful was, you're talking about the offensive line legacy. Yes, we know about DBU. It is by far Virginia Tech's best position legacy. But if you take a step back and you look at Jim Pine, even Burke, the tight end, Barry, Boatwright, Haygood, TJ, Malone, Eugene Chung, yourself, and you, myself, Gennaro, and Todd were voted by the fans and media as some of the best offensive linemen during the Beamer era. I don't know. I probably was 13, and I'm honored because I don't think I should have been on that list over Boatwright. But it is what it is. That's why I said I don't. But when you look back on your career, you talk about how hard practices were. Just name some of the guys that gave you, I mean, not just at Virginia Tech, but I mean, we know about Cornell and JC and Death Row with that 95. Were there some other guys in the conference or at UVA or other schools that, what about Syracuse?
Oh, that 98 game, man, let me tell you something. That Carrier Dome in itself, I think, was a weapon. People don't understand it. It used to be filled, and it used to be very, very loud. And I'll never forget 96. They were giving Cornell just such a hard time.
I remember.
And he was drinking his Gatorade, and you know how close the bleachers are to
behind.
yeah. So he's drinking his Gatorade, and somebody's like, Cornell, bro, 58, bro. And he goes, zoop. And just tossed it back and put his helmet on and went out. I was like, oh, man. It just, that was a hostile environment. And that 98 game, man, I mean, they play that thing all the time on ESPN Classic. It just,
I hate it.
Dr. Newman kills me all the time.
He knows
he loves it, man. He's such an awesome guy, man.
Should never lost that game. Should have lost that game. Jamel Smith, offense started off so well. And Jamel Smith, when Syracuse making a comeback, we kept going 3 and out, or we kept stalling.
Yeah.
And Jamel comes to the sideline, linebacker Jamel Smith, looks at me, you, and the rest of the offense, and takes his helmet off and says, "Offense, please help us."
Oh my God, it was awful. And it didn't help. Like, we were getting calls like draw. And I'm like, draw? Come on, man. They're like, everybody's coming. Stop. It's Keith Bullock. Like, it's physical.
No, you mentioned Keith Bullock. So talk about, because there's a misconception that the Big East, those that it was never the ACC, but you mentioned Keith Bullock. I remember Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, the Miami teams. How about that Miami matchup in '98 against Nate Webster, Dan Morgan, what's his name? Damian Lewis, Ed Reed, just some great players. On offense, they had Santana Moss, Reggie Wayne, Edgerrin James.
I tell you, I felt sore after West Virginia. I felt sore after Miami. There's always a few games that you knew you were going to feel it the next day. It's like, it wasn't like Rutgers our senior year. Remember, like,
oh man,
was it the D tackle? He looked at you and he was like trying to say something or whatever. And you're like, man, stop! You go to Rutgers, man.
You remember that? I was a trash talker. Ironically, I got hurt that game.
Oh, hey,
I tore my muscle. I tore my calf muscle. But you're right. Man. We talked a lot. The Rutgers guy was like, bro, because he was like some little undersized D tackle. He like an Oompa Loompa from Willy Wonka.
So funny. I mean, truth be told, and like Kearney was a beast, man, at UVA. Like for me, what was it that morning? God, and for the while, UVA used to treat that game like it was a Super Bowl, man. Like they loved it, right? Like Aaron Brooks' great comeback, so. Kearney that game, was it that morning for breakfast? It was like the Roanoke Times. They had a picture of me from the year before getting my butt whipped by Kearney, laying on the ground. Like everybody was quiet. So like I walked into breakfast and like everybody's talking, we walk in, everybody stops talking. I was like, what happened? Like what's going on? And then I look and I was just like so angry. I got so mad.
I remember that.
Oh my God. I couldn't talk to anybody. I was just so focused on like, I'm just going to destroy Patrick Kearney. I was so just in my mind. And I remember walking through the hallway. Billy Housewright was our GA, remember at the time. And he's like, hey man, congratulations. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, you made 13 All-American. I was like, wait, what? I was like, oh, that's cool. So like, it made me feel even better to be like, wow, I got this acknowledgement as well. And I'm on a mission to go kick Patrick Kearney's butt. And
you held it. I mean, I remember. We shouldn't have lost that game either. Our senior year was a game of should have, would have. We went 9-3, finished ranked, but we lost 3 games. We were up by double digits. But UVA probably hurt because you had Kearney and I had Dingle, and we were balling.
Let me say this. I love Patrick because we became good friends afterwards. We got the same agent, and listen, I tore my ACL at the NFL, and then we'll talk about that in a minute. But like, he was great people. And he told me after the game, he was like, man, you worked me harder than I've ever had anybody else. And it made even more of a friendship with him. It was like respect. Like you work hard, I work hard. Like we both like this challenge to each other. And I remember he kicked the guy from Georgia's butt, man. I forget who it was. Stinchcomb, I think he went.
But because we went to the Music City. They went to I forgot
Peach Bowl, right?
And and Kearney was killing it. And I was man, he ain't do nothing like that against us.
Yeah. So it was good times. But I mean, the truth be told, our D-line, Vic, there's hands down, like there's no. People have to understand it. Our practices were harder than games. Like
yes, they were.
Even if it was West Virginia, even if it was Miami, our practices were harder than our games. So you go against Corey Moore, John Engelberger, Chris Cyrus, all these guys that are just complete studs, that just gave us a workout the whole time, it does nothing but get you better. Like, you've got no choice. If you're not going to get better, you're not playing. So like, it was that kind of mentality that we pushed each other so hard to get to a point. It was like, man, we can do anything, and I'll tell you where it really, I think, inflected for me was after that 97 game. And I want to address that, right? Like I was hurt. We had no wide receiver. Like, everybody was hurt. Like, they play cover zero. It was like everybody was in the box
Gator Bowl
that game.
against Carolina.
Yeah,
no,
man.
Yeah,
And I love Gennaro. And Gennaro jokingly was like, man, we played that team 7 times. We wouldn't
60.
win.
He said 60. He said if we played him 60.
Yeah, right.
People thought I said it because my face was on the picture, the newspaper, and the quote was underneath. I said, I ain't say that. That was Gennaro. But I knew how Gennaro was. He was a guy from Jersey, and he just said it because you catch him right after the game. They smoked us.
And Beamer always told us, like, be nice to media, but don't trust them. He was real with us about that. He helped us in that kind of life thing. So I remember Gent was mad. Remember, he was upset. He was like, we had somebody tell us that one of our former teammates, and like, we were just like, oh man, it's about to get on. Like, it's about to get on. And I remember Weaver came in too, and he was like, yeah, you guys think you're national championship. You're not national championship caliber. And I was like, wait, what? Like, who, what did you just say? And he's like,
you're referencing when Jim Weaver, the new AD, came on our last year in '98. He was very honest with us.
He came in, he said, I have a ring from Penn State, I know that
from Florida
or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Man. And just, I remember I was like, man, this really, really rubs me the wrong way, because I feel challenged by Coach Gentry, in the way of, we're not going to get our butt 60 times, but I need belief in who we are as people to get this thing done. Like, you can't look at us and say you're not good enough to get it done. Coach Beamer looked at you like, you're absolutely good enough to get it done. Like, think about it. We had guys that weren't 5 stars, 4 stars. I mean, we had guys that had 0 stars, right? It was finding the talent level and maximizing it and letting them know, I care about you. Like, I believe in you. Right. And so even for like a kid myself at this time in my life, when you have people like that look at you, that love you, that care about you, great things happen. The Frank Beamer era happened. Everybody that's been on your story that talks about Coach Beamer, the love for the man, right? For the nation, for the man. We've got to experience something unique in history, and he's tactile, he's touch. We can touch him. Shane's doing amazing things at South Carolina. Like, I can't imagine what success he's going to have, like what great things are going to come, because we know what kind of morals, work ethic, value system that Beams put into us, that they developed into us. And we have this work ethic that just drives, that just gets after it, So when somebody loves you and care about you, you do anything for them. And again, like I said, I think that's why we saw that big time success, specifically after the Music City Bowl. Right? Because Alabama, man, I talked to Chris Samuels about this because Chris was on, he
was a tackle on that team,
Washington football team. And remember this, it was like cold and rainy, it was all messy and stuff like
that.
Northeastern,
it was a Northeastern that came through.
But there was, like, even during the practice, like the practices were cold, messy, and everything else. And we were at I forget, it was a private school or another school.
Some school inside, outside, yeah.
And we hadn't finished practice yet. We were still wrapping up or whatever. And Alabama rolled up, like, I guess they had the same facility or whatever, just rolled up and just rolled onto the practice field. And we were like, whoa, who do you think you are? And immediately it was just like, it got active, like, really fast. The Beamer was like, all right, let's go, like, let's get out of here. And like, they had this air, like, don't you know who we are? Like, we're Alabama. And we're like, man, don't you know who we are? Like, we're Virginia Tech, man. Like, you've got no idea about what's coming, right? Like, and the film, the eye in the sky never lies. So the film, right? We have our season for Music City Bowl, and you see what happened. Championship, they win 99. Like they had the formula, they had the success. They pushed us to the peak. Like, the grateful part is we're a piece of that cog. Like, we're just a small fraction of this cog, and it's so many of us that make up this cog. And what I love to see, and what you're doing here on your platform, is we're getting chances to express ourselves and talk about ourselves, and the influence about that kind of influence in your life to make people better, man, to look at life and see things optimistically instead of pessimistically, right? And as a kid, your challenges with your brain, you're not there yet. And that takes time. And you
Mm-hmm.
need somebody patient with you. You need somebody that loves you. You need somebody that cares you, somebody that believes in you, so that you can find your own right to right the wrong, right?
Yeah, no doubt. No, you're speaking knowledge, and it's interesting you say that because you had an all-American career after coming back, overcoming your personal issues and situations with your family, and you come back, you eventually get to a great place, have a great career. You were named captain, Virginia Tech Offensive Lineman of the Year. You were an All-American, All-Conference in the Big East, and then you're in the combine, and then you tear your
God,
ACL. But
dude.
hold on, we're not gonna harp too much on that because you still got drafted by Washington, right? In the 5th round. You still got drafted by Washington in the
Yeah,
5th round,
yeah.
right?
So yeah, actually, I was fortunate where I got invited to be able to go to both the East West Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl, and balled out in both. Like, I had a great time, man. It was like, again, we played the hardest competition with Corey Moore, John Engelberger at defensive end for me. Like, it didn't matter who I was going against, right? That they were the best that I saw. So I think that's why I did well in those All-Star games. So I was feeling good. Got to the combine, man. And I know we won't belabor too much on it because I'm talking about getting to the Washington football team, but you spend all that time doing the 40 and the
Vertical jump,
vertical jump,
broad
yep,
jump.
and get all this different stuff, and you don't really think about like the coaches drills. Like, they've got a separate component that goes with it where a group of coaches just run drills after you've been poked and prodded and everything else with the doctors. So they had like a pulling drill to go, and it was on the RCA turf in Indianapolis, man. I just hauling around or whatever, just thinking, just doing my business. The guy makes a turn to cut. I go to cut and my knee pops. And I didn't even realize like what happened, because I've never had that kind of injury before, right? Like, so I'm laying there and my leg is just like burning. And one of the trainers comes over, "Hey, you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I heard a pop in my knee." He's like, "Ooh. Let me go get a cart." And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm good. I'm gonna get up and walk off." So I got up and walked off. And you know how you get like the ice cream pain, like when you
Oh yeah.
eat ice cream and you get like
Mm-hmm.
that sharp sensation.
Mm-hmm.
That is throbbing down through my leg the whole time. And the scouts are coming down, and they're like, "Derek, you okay?" I was like, yeah. Just tweak my knee a little bit. I'll be all right, And you saw like this big look of concern, and I'm like, God, I just got to walk this thing off, man. I gotta make sure I'm okay, and you know, it's not going to be bad, that kind of thinking or whatever. So I get back to where the doctors are. One of the doctors comes up. I don't remember what team, and he was like, "Hey, what happened?" I was like, "Hey, I think I heard my knee pop," and he just backed away from me, and I was like, "What?" Like, like he just backed up. And we had those old cell phones back then. Remember them old
Yeah, the big ones.
Nokias
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
blocks? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
blocks. So I called my agent. He was outside, and he was like beside himself. He's like, "You tore your ACL?" I was like, "What?" Just like flipping out too, right? And he's like, "Hold on, I got a couple team doctors that I can call that'll check you out, right? That'll be okay." One was the Dolphins team doctor, right? So he came by eventually to where this area I was and checked my knee, and it did it showed that it was broken or whatever. And he's like, "Man, I'm sorry, you got a torn ACL." And then
They
he
told
walked
you right
away,
there.
and I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And I was like, "All right, what do I do now? Like, do I have crutches? Do I have whatever?" Like, everybody from the NFL scattered. You know what I mean? So I called my agents. I was like, what am I supposed to do? And they're like, "Get outside. We'll come get you crutches and get you try to get you on a plane and get you to see one of our surgeons or whatever." So I hobble outside. We go to get crutches. We get back in Blacksburg. And then I end up going to the New York Giants team doctor, Russ Warren, and he did my ACL surgery. And that was kind of like the good pass to be able to say like, "Hey, I did his surgery, so he's good enough to be able to play," But I'll be for real, man. I didn't think I was going to get drafted. I think anybody, like, I look at Anthony Poindexter, like the greatness of Anthony Poindexter, at UVA, right? That tore his knees up as well too. And it's like, it's circumstance, like things just happen, and it's unfortunate, and it affects the career. And so I didn't think I was going to get drafted. It was about the week before the draft, actually, that that maybe I was like, okay. The Cincinnati Bengals O-line coach flew down to Norfolk to come see me when I was staying at my mom's house for the draft, right? And I was still have my knee wrapped up in the bandages, and he's like, "Hey, listen, I know Derek, you're hurt, but we still want to take you in the second round, the fourth round on the second day as a tackle." I said, "We'll just sit out this year, and then you'll heal up." So I was like, "All right, cool," you know. So I called my agents, and they're like, "No, you don't want to go to Cincinnati. No," they're like, they don't have scouts, they don't have I guess their coaches do their own scouting or whatever.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you know, it's kind of why they're in the city. Yeah. So draft day comes. I don't pay no mind the first day. Just looking to see if I see anybody and happy for the guys. Question some of the tackles. You know, you're like, "Oh man, I'm better than that tackle," right? You know, everybody does that stuff, right? And second day came, and the fourth round came, and no phone call, and the Bengals picked somebody or whatever, and I just immediately got down. I was like, "Man, what am I do? Like, I don't know what to do." Like my whole life, you know, I got my degree at Tech with interdisciplinary studies, but I didn't necessarily know what to do with it yet. You know,
Yeah.
so I was like, "Man, I don't know what to do." Like I just got no idea, and the phone rang. My mom answered it, and she was like, "Oh, hey, Derek, the phone's for you," or whatever. So I go to grab the phone to answer it, and my mom starts screaming. I'm like, stop, like this. And I answer the phone. It's like, "Hey, Derek, this is Charlie Cashley from the Washington football team," or, you know, well, at the other time.
Yeah.
"How you doing?" I was like, "Oh, you know, great, sir. How you doing?" He's like, how would you like to be one of the teammates?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, sir. That'd be awesome." He's like, "Hold on," and handed me the phone down to North Turner, and then Coach Graham. And just kind of everybody, it was like, man, that's a surreal moment. It's like, you know, I think for any of us, and, you know, you had your opportunity in Baltimore too, man. Like people need to understand that too. Like everybody got a chance to represent and to maximize their opportunity at that time. The NFL is a weird business, you know, it's
very
a
weird,
strange business. So I felt very blessed to get drafted and be local, you know, be the local guy that goes to Tech. And,
whoa.
Yeah, man. Rooftop gets a little bit windy. But be the local guy that's in DC and get a chance to, you know, be with friends and things like that. And, you know, like I said, I'm getting older, I'm getting more mature. So I'm not necessarily having those same, you know, behaviors that you do as you're a kid. And, you know, money does a little bit things differently. You're still not acting right completely, right? It's amazing how, you know, that gives you kind of a false sense of who you are in a way. And it's not really about money, man. It's about your heart. It's about the love. It's the care. And that's, you know, it's the journey that we'll talk about, you know. But at that time, you think that's what it matters. And it's about the money and the cars. And then you realize, man, somebody's got a better car than somebody else. And then, dang, they got a better car than they got, you know, and you're like, oh, wow, they got a yacht. So, like, what are you going to do? Like, you know, it just keeps getting better. You know, they keep trying to outdo each other. And you're like, that can't be it, you know. But at that time, the Washington football team, they were all the same guys from the Jack Kent Cooke era. And so they were really caring, really loving, and that's why they won the championships they did and everything else is because they said it was such a family environment. So, you know, that first year in '99 was
It won a division.
Yeah, it won the division. But in the spring, after I got drafted, I was down there for the first like the first OTAs. I can't remember what it was. It was like the first workout or whatever like that. And they introduced our owner, which was Dan Snyder. He was brand new, right? And he's just a little guy that came out, right? And with all due respect, and little guy that kind of walked out on the stage, and you see all the coaches and everything else or whatever, and he gets on the microphone. And he's like, "All right, man, I'm a butthole. I'm a prick. That's how I do business, and that's how we're going to do things around here." And I could see all the coaches' faces were like, "Wait, what?" Like, you go from Jack Kent Cooke, that's like, I guess, really loving and caring. Their whole family was all about each other, and to kind of this business approach of like cutthroat, you know. And I was just happy to have a job. I'll be honest with you. I was just happy to have a job, right? So a lot of the guys there were shocked by it. And I think you've seen kind of the years as things have gone, how situations are. And
well, you were also there too for transition. Ironically, your senior year at Virginia Tech, you know, Dave Rain moves on, then Jim Weaver comes in, and you know, a few years later, Virginia Tech goes to the ACC. But we were there with the new locker room, the Merriman Center, all that stuff. And then you go to Washington after they win the division. After Brad Johnson leads them to a division title, all of a sudden you have Jeff George come in, Bruce Smith come in, Deion Sanders come in. They send Brian Mitchell. They cut him. He goes to the Giants or the Eagles, one of the two. You were there with some personalities.
It was great to have Bruce as a fellow Hokie. I just looked up to him. You know, he you know, he took care of himself and practiced and played when he needed to. You know, my lockers actually were beside Mitch, Brian Mitchell, and Larry Centers.
Larry Centers, another
Oh
great
my God, every day, man, they were just in me every day. They're like rookie, like they wouldn't even call you by your first name after the first year. And I'll be honest, man, this was how cutthroat I knew the NFL was back then. Is Mitch said, he goes, this was in the summertime when everybody's there and, you know, still trying out. And it's like a group of like 100 guys. And I'm just talking to people like from BC and some other places that, you know, people we played with and just making, you know, conversation. And I sit down in my locker and he goes, why are you talking to them? I was like, what do you mean? He goes, dude, they're all going to be gone in about a week anyway. So don't waste your time on getting to know who they are until they make the team. And I was like, whoa. He said, he goes, don't you know what the NFL is? And I was like, what? He goes, not for long. I was like, oh, dang. Like, oh my God, I'm going to pick it up. Like, I got to be on my game. So I appreciate his mentorship. Like, he was old school back with the regime. And Daryl Green too, man. He called me Druck. He used to call me Tech. You know, he had a good, fond relationship with Virginia Tech and just an awesome person, man. Like everything that you could dream of or think of who he was as a person and a player, he was, right? Like outstanding. We had Deion Sanders, personality. Deion kind of did his thing. I didn't really interact with him that much. But we had some guys and it made for some fun times. You know, DC's a great place, man. You know, we live here. So like DMV's awesome and you know, it was good people, it was a good organization. That following year, like I got the rehab that year. And that following year, actually, we were playing against Todd Washington's team, the Bucks.
Yep.
And I went in at right tackle, and my other knee buckled on me.
Yep, I saw it live.
Yeah, man. So that was kind of the end of that. You know, I remember Russ trying to be nice to me. He's like, "Damn, Smitty, your durability's not too great." And I was like, "Coach, I'm hurting, man." Like, you know, it's just sad, you know. And I knew there was just something you knew about it. And when you started talking to the doctors, like, it's never good when a doctor comes back after they look at like X-rays and stuff like that, and they have like a sad face on their face, like they're preparing you for like bad news, you know. And they're like, "Derek, I'm sorry, man. Like, we had to take a quarter size out of your knee." And I'm like, what does that matter? Like, I don't know. What is a quarter size? You know, it's going to be very painful to walk on your knee. You know, like you're going to have these issues and stuff. And I was like, well, okay, what is that? All right. You know, and you just start to weigh these things and all these options are like, this outlook is not good for you. You know, it's like I had to have a microfracture done and even plugs that were put in there, like in my knee. Like it just got to a point where like every step, man, it was that like ice cream syndrome, you know, it's just like, so you had your ACL, which you're always funny about. And actually it was great. My ACL was fine, but you still are a little bit nervous. And all of a sudden you popped your other knee and just kind of that hard reality, like it's over. Like, you know, these things are done. And the doctors are like, you know, Derek, you're technically not healed, right? This is the Washington football team. You're technically not healed, but you're good enough, I think, that you can make the waiver wire. Like, can you just sign off that you're okay, and then we'll go. And I thank God that Bubba Tyre was on the team for the Washington football team, and he looked at me and he said, you know, son, the NFL is not like Frank Beamer college football, Virginia Tech. Okay, you just need to understand that. He said, I know you as a person that you would play through pain, you'd play through anything. But at this point in time, you need to understand that this is a business. So if you are not well, you need to make sure they understand you're not well. And I'm grateful for that mentorship, right? I'm grateful for that kind of tutoring. And, you know, that was kind of the end of that ride. It was Marty Schottenheimer.
Marty.
Yeah, he released me, and it was all of, I think, you know, just a couple sentences. You know, I walk in his office. He's like, Derek, guess, you know, things didn't work out too well for you. Wish you best of luck. You know, and that was it. And so then you start figuring out, you're like, okay, this whole identity of who I am as a person, this big football player guy, whatever, what do you do now? Right? Where do you go now? Mm-hmm. And so the thing about, you know, the DCs that I really love and just appreciate is just, you know, the hustle and bustle that goes with it. And, you know, there's all these trendy places or whatever. And I'm not all into that, but it's just, you know, it's beautiful, man. I love DC and I love our area.
Well, I want to, you know, we don't have much time left, but I do want to touch on, it's funny, you helped segue that point because your career ended, but it was almost like your new career began, and you've been as good as you were as a football player, Derek, and you were really good, and it came naturally to you. You had a bigger impact as a father, husband, and in your new career, I know you haven't been a principal for 20 years, but
Yeah.
you've been in education and
Yep.
leadership and human services
Well,
for quite some time, right? And you have a mission, a vision. I don't want to get corny and say change the
yeah.
world, but you
Yeah.
have a passion
Oh yeah.
to make
Yeah.
a difference. And you've been
Absolutely.
doing a great job at that,
Thanks,
right?
man. I appreciate it, man. I'll be honest with you. So the NFL ends, you try to figure out things, right? And so I did save up money. I didn't spend my money, and we used it to open up a restaurant in Atlanta, Georgia.
I remember that.
Yeah, Winder, Georgia, actually. That it was close by Ken Oxnard. I wanted to be close by, I love Ox, man. So I want to be close by him and his family and stuff. And the restaurant really got me to think about serving people and my employees, they had a lot of struggles, and I think I identified a lot with who they were as people with struggles, and you understand that, how to support, how to give them belief and help them find their purpose. And you realize when you get back into schools, you really help kids and you help them find their way to become anything that's possible. I mean, Vic, I think this is the thing I want to get across, that of anything on my journey, is the fact that I realize I can't blame my father for any of my circumstances in my life. I give him forgiveness. I have acceptance, right? I look at situations now as a person that I want to make sure I can uplift as many people as I can to find their own identity as a person, right? To accept themselves as who they are, love themselves as who they are, love each other, help support each other, because we've been through so much. And I think at this point in time, you look at where can we make really positive change. It's in our schools, it's with our kids, it's giving them the love that, it's not giving them the school that we had. It's not about that process of the industrial model that we had to go through, that was just rules for rules reasons, right? Like, no, we need to care and love people. We've just been through a pandemic. We got to love people and lift them up. And so, I think that's a journey. I do want to say, Vic, that a lot of times I've turned to a lot of meditation. I've been meditating probably for the last 10 years.
Mm.
It's really helped me in terms of a lot of acceptance in my life, and working through a lot of challenges and so forth. And a lot of ways my connection to God in that way is too, and that peacefulness that I get from meditating. And for me, that's been really profound. I love hiking. I love
I've seen the
photography. Yeah.
pictures, you and Liz, and yeah,
Yeah, man.
it's amazing.
It's one of those things that I think you feel you're driven in life to be able to make a difference in people's lives, and you're grateful because you have people like Frank Beamer that made that difference in our lives, that made us who we were as people through the values of Virginia Tech, right? And it takes us to that other place of just service, to make sure that we serve and we're the betterment of the good of the world, right? Like, that we love each other, man. So I'm grateful for this opportunity, man. I know we've been talking for a while. Probably, man, do these shows multiple times. I'll be honest with you. I'd love to interview it sometime too.
Well, I run my mouth. I'm on everything. This is your legacy spotlight. Well, look, I let my guests, I want you to do this. And I let all my guests that come in, their final thoughts. I'm going to ask you a question, because you have great perspective and God has blessed you, and you are all about paying it forward and giving back. You've been through trauma, tragedy, disappointment, and you've risen above every time, right? And we have a brotherhood and a bond, all of us, me, you, Ken, Oxshot, the whole crew.
Yep.
But this is your legacy spotlight. There is a Derek Smith right now, and believe me, I have a platform. People watch they watch these shows on my YouTube channel and Facebook and Instagram, Twitter. With that being said, somebody right now is going through it. One of your students from Osborne is going through it right now. COVID's hit hard, or they're an athlete trying to get through. They've had some injuries, whatever the circumstances, disappointment, depression has hit them hard. What advice do you have, given all your life lessons you had thus far in your life? What life lessons do you want to pass on to end this show and tell everybody that's going through it right now?
I'd say is the person, you want to give them hope and provide the line of sight for them to see it in themselves, because you can only do it for yourself. Unfortunately, that nobody else can do it for you, and you have to figure that out through your own journeys and through your tribulations. And it's through the support systems of each other, of the true care for each other. And sometimes when you are damaged, and sometimes go through things, you have to trust when you meet somebody, whether it be in school, at church, other places that may be that you feel this support that can help you through different things. You have to trust them sometimes that they will get you through it, because you can create your own destiny. I mean, Vic, we talk about the light of God inside of us and how it moves us in a lot of ways. I mean, recognize the power in yourself, what you say about yourself, you are, believe what you think you are, right? So if you look at the world and you look at a glass of water and it's filled up halfway, is it half empty or is it half full? It's your choice. It's your perspective. So you make those decisions. You can create your destiny. It's not going to be easy, but know that you can get past those challenges, and know that love others once you get there. Help others get there as well, because we all got to be there for each other in the end.
No doubt.
I love you, man.
Love you too. Well said, man. And I appreciate you for jumping on. I just want to thank you again. Please tell Liz and the girls I said hello, and to all the people that follow Derek. When I posted on Facebook and I announced it, I tagged your wife, and you had a lot of people, a lot of family like, when is this going to run? So, with that being said, I just want to tell everybody that checks for these Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlights, that support Derek Smith, that support me, the Vicktory Life movement. I want to say thank you. And like I say, every episode, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, make sure you have a positive impact and you leave a great legacy. Thank you. And also, if you want to see more videos like this, check us out on Vicktory Life. YouTube is this right here, Vicktory Life. Check us out. We're on YouTube. Give us a follow, subscribe, and also check us out on Instagram. Nothing but positivity and love. You guys take care. Thank you, Derek. God bless, man. Love you, boss.
Thanks, baby.